Hello, my name is Susan Skopik, and these pictures were taken in my Grade 2-3 class at Jubilee Elementary in Meadow Lake. This webinar will introduce the instructional approaches to reading. The gradual release of responsibility model has been seen as an effective approach for improving literacy. It allows for teachers to use ongoing assessments to make instructional decisions. This webinar will show how many instructional approaches can be implemented in the classroom. Modeled reading. Modeled reading is an effective instructional practice in which the teacher models verbally to the students a reading process or strategy. Modeled reading includes reading the text aloud to students whilst they listen and observe, and can be a whole class or small group activity. Modeled reading can be reading a text that is at the edge of the student's speaking vocabulary and above their reading level, where the purpose is to demonstrate a skill, such as the ones in Adrian Gear's reading powers, or an ability, such as fluency, fix-up strategy, or think aloud. I feel that read alouds demonstrate the power of stories and gives us an opportunity to introduce many genres to students. We can show students how to search for meaning, and we can introduce strategies of understanding that we can then reinforce in shared, guided, and independent reading. Marie Clay writes that when teachers read aloud to students, meanings can be negotiated in discussion before, during, and after the story reading. Fountas and Pinnell note that reading aloud to students should include think aloud or interactive elements and focus intentionally on the meaning within the text and beyond the text. Birkins and Croft wrote that read aloud as part of the gradual release of responsibility feeds naturally into shared, guided, and independent reading as teachers demonstrate for students the ways the reading process works. In early literacy instruction, Rogue lists the following benefits of read aloud as building vocabulary, developing understanding of story structures, supporting developing connections between print elements, encouraging high levels of understanding, teaching the reading process in a meaningful context, modeling fluency, and motivating students to read. Shared reading. Shared reading is an interactive reading experience that occurs when students join in or share the reading of a book or other text while guided and supported by the teacher. Shared reading provides struggling readers with supports, and shared reading of predictable texts can build sight word knowledge and reading fluency. It allows students to enjoy materials that they may not be able to read on their own. Reading aloud helps students sound out words. Shared reading is important because it helps build students' confidence by reading out loud and being willing to make mistakes in front of their peers. In shared reading, the teacher introduces the story by discussing the title, cover, and author, illustrator, and making predictions with the students. The teacher can then read the story aloud to the whole class while students follow along using a big class copy or on the smartboard, or it can be done in a small group situation as I do in my reading groups, using multiple copies of the book or story. Time for discussing, reactions, and comments is important. Making connections, questioning, and inferring can be naturally focused on as part of before, during, and after activities. Follow-up activities are important and meaningful in context. Shared reading is particularly effective for helping ELL students as it familiarizes them with the conventions of written English. Guided reading. Guided reading is an approach designed to help individual readers build an effective system for processing a variety of increasingly challenging texts over time. It is not an exercise to practice reading skills. It is research-based, targeted, scaffolded reading instruction that propels students towards confident, independent reading across an array of literature and informational genres. High-level reading comprehension is the goal of guided reading instruction. Guided reading lessons provide opportunities to expand academic vocabulary through reading, writing, conversation, and explicit instruction. In guided reading, teachers work with small groups of students reading at similar instructional levels, providing them with problem-solving support with level-appropriate text. The groups are flexible to meet the learning needs of the students. Fountas and Pinnell say that guided reading instruction leads readers forward because you support each reader's development of effective strategies for processing text at increasingly challenging levels of difficulty. Working in small groups allows the teacher to observe the individual reader and work one-on-one to provide specific teaching. The teacher groups and regroups students in a dynamic process that involves the teacher's ongoing observation and assessment of each student. This is where specific phonics and word study can be taught. The teacher must build a classroom culture that makes it possible for the small group instruction, whilst the rest of the class is engaged in other productive literacy activities. The basic elements of a guided reading lesson include a selection of a text that is just right to support new learning in the group, introduction of text to scaffold the reading but leaving some problem solving for the group. Students read the text softly with the teacher prompting or reinforcing strategic actions. Then comes discussion of the text to boost the students' comprehension. There will be teaching points grounded in the text that can be directed toward expanding students' comprehension strategies. Word work to help students become flexible and efficient at figuring out unknown words can be done in context. Guided reading lessons usually end with extending the knowledge of a text through writing, drawing, or my class favorite, acting. Whilst the teacher is instructing a small group of students, it is essential that the rest of the class is engaged in purposeful activities that strengthen and expand their reading abilities. I have found that the Daily 5 system works well in my classroom as we establish expectations at the beginning of the year. Students self-select their Daily 5 choices for the morning. They have good fit books in their book bins. They are responsible for their own learning and are more engaged in their activities. It is not busy work, as they are given ongoing reading and writing goals to meet and individual conferences to check in on how they are progressing. Independent reading is a huge part of my Daily 5 classroom. Students are taught how to self-select books that are a good fit, and I promote various genres when we visit the library. Students get comfy and spend up to 20 minutes at a time reading to themselves. For another 20-minute session, students choose a partner to read aloud quietly to. This partner can be a stuffy animal who is an excellent listener, so they are practicing their fluency and expression. Partner reading leads to discussions and book swaps, as personal choices are recommended. We listen to reading also using RazKids and Tumble books on individual laptops. This also gives us a chance to take comprehension tests and be accountable for the reading. My classroom is purposefully active with students busy on Daily 5, and we have developed guided reading and individual conferencing to slip into this framework so that everyone is engaged in balanced literacy for our language arts periods. Therefore, in my Balanced Daily 5 classroom, students are immersed in literacy for about 80 minutes a day. I recommend that you take some time to check out the websites, books, and articles on the last slide. There are many helpful resources available to teachers to guide you in selecting the instructional approaches that best fit your students, as you both travel on the gradual release of responsibility model. A long-standing body of research shows something that teachers have known for a long time, that students who read more, read better, and have higher reading achievement.